The Ixthali delegation toured the Nairobi Wildlife Preserve with an air of amused superiority. Commander Vex's exoskeleton gleamed under the African sun as he observed a cheetah taking down a gazelle. "Primitive hunting strategy," he remarked to Dr. Reyes through his translator. "No energy conservation, purely mechanical advantage. On our world, apex predators utilize biochemical paralysis at a distance." Elena Reyes maintained her diplomatic smile despite her growing irritation. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she'd been assigned to escort the alien visitors, but their condescension tested her patience. "Evolution takes different paths based on environmental pressures," she explained. "Our predators developed strategies specific to Earth's conditions." Commander Vex made a clicking sound that his translator rendered as laughter. "Your world's defenders lack basic biological innovations. Our youngest genetic engineers create more efficient hunters before completing primary education." The alien party moved toward their shuttle, a living vessel that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Dr. Reyes discreetly collected a soil sample from where the craft had landed yesterday. The discoloration around its landing struts concerned her. Inside the shuttle, Junior Science Officer Kex approached his commander with a concerned flicker of his skin patterns. "The environmental systems report increased filter saturation. Local microorganisms show unexpected penetration rates." "Increase sterilization protocols," Vex ordered dismissively. "Primitive world, primitive contaminants." The shuttle rose into the atmosphere, joining the massive organic mothership hovering above Mount Kilimanjaro. Its presence had triggered worldwide panic 3 days ago, until the Ixthali announced their benevolent cultural exchange mission. Back in her laboratory, Dr. Reyes examined her soil samples under an electron microscope. What she saw confirmed her suspicions. Bacterial colonies were rapidly multiplying around microscopic fragments of alien biological material. "Computer, compare bacterial growth rates to baseline," she instructed. "Growth rate exceeds standard parameters by 437%. The system responded. "Bacteria show accelerated mutation patterns consistent with novel food source adaptation." Elena's fingers flew across her tablet, documenting her findings. Earth's microorganisms were treating the alien biological technology as an abundant new food source. If this pattern continued... Her thoughts were interrupted by global alert. The Ixthali had requested an emergency session with the United Nations Security Council. On screens worldwide, Commander Vex's imposing figure addressed humanity. "People of Earth, we have evaluated your biosphere and determined it requires significant improvement. Your wildlife lacks efficient evolutionary paths. Your apex predators show minimal genetic optimization." His skin rippled with patterns of authority as he continued, "The Ixthali Collective offers you advancement. We will establish research outposts to catalogue your genetic material and demonstrate superior biological engineering. Resistance is unnecessary. Your primitive defense systems cannot harm our advanced biotechnology." As global leaders argued about the thinly veiled invasion, Dr. Reyes stared at her microscope screen, where bacteria continued their accelerated consumption of alien biological matter. Earth had been fighting microscopic wars for billions of years, producing organisms tested through countless evolutionary battles. "You've never faced our real defenders," she whispered to the alien image on her screen. "And they're already eating you alive." The Serengeti demonstration had left world leaders shaken. The Ixthali's engineered predator, a sleek, metallic-scaled creature with multiple rows of serrated teeth, had dismantled a bull elephant in minutes. Now, As diplomats argued strategy in secured conference rooms, Dr. Reyes worked frantically in her makeshift field laboratory. "The degradation is accelerating," she muttered, examining a discarded piece of alien equipment. The organic components showed clear signs of microscopic invasion, with colonies of terrestrial bacteria flourishing in patterns she'd never observed before. Her colleague, Dr. Patel, looked up from his microscope. "Elena, you need to see this. The bacteria aren't just consuming the alien material, they are adapting to it, evolving new metabolic pathways in real time." Outside, the Ixthotheli were establishing their first research outpost, their living architecture sprouting from specialized spores planted in the African soil. Workers moved with precision, their exoskeletons shifting color with their tasks. None seemed to notice the increased frequency with which they adjusted their breathing filters. Science Officer Kex approached Commander Vex, his bioluminescent patterns dimmed in concern. "Commander, our medical unit reports 17 crew members experiencing respiratory distress. Our filters are capturing unusual microbial concentrations." Vex dismissed the concern with a flick of his upper limbs. "Implement standard sterilization protocols. These symptoms are merely an adjustment period to this primitive atmosphere." Kex's skin flickered with hesitation. "The sterilization doesn't appear to be effective. The microorganisms show resistance to our standard countermeasures." "Then strengthen them," Vex snapped. "Our biological technology has conquered 1,000 worlds. This mudball's simple life forms pose no threat." Dr. Reyes requested an urgent meeting with the United Nations Scientific Advisory Committee. Our request was denied. The political situation was too delicate for speculative concerns about microscopic life. Undeterred, she contacted Dr. Henderson at the CDC. "Sam, I need emergency analysis of these samples," she explained, transmitting her data. "Earth bacteria are treating the alien biotech like an all-you-can-eat buffet, and they're evolving specialized adaptations at unprecedented speeds." At the alien outpost, the first structural failures appeared. A communication node, grown from specialized alien tissue, developed dark patches that spread visibly across its surface. Maintenance workers applied regenerative compounds, but the deterioration accelerated. Commander Vex experienced his first coughing fit during an inspection. His personal physician prescribed increased immune boosters, attributing the symptoms to minor local irritants. That evening, as Vex recorded his daily log, he noticed something alarming, small lesions developing along his breathing filters. He immediately ordered a full biological containment protocol and summoned Science Officer Kex. "Why is our adaptive immunity failing against these primitive organisms?" he demanded. Kex's response came through labored breathing. "They're microbes. They're unlike anything in our database. They've evolved through billions of years of competitive pressure. Our systems have no reference points to develop countermeasures." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Commander Vex's bioluminescent patterns. "Prepare our hunter units. We may need to demonstrate our superiority more conclusively." As night fell over the Serengeti, the lights of the alien outpost flickered erratically. Inside her lab, Dr. Reyes received Henderson's preliminary analysis. Earth's oldest bacterial strains were exhibiting novel behaviors in response to alien biology, behaviors never before documented in scientific history. The invisible war had begun. The emergency transmission from the Amazon outpost contained only visual data, no audio. The footage showed Ixthotheli researchers collapsing beside equipment covered in rapidly spreading mold. Their exoskeletons displayed distress patterns, unlike anything in human records. The transmission ended abruptly as the communication node itself disintegrated. Commander Vex, his breathing now assisted by an enhanced filtration system, summoned his remaining officers to the command center of the African outpost. Several chairs remained empty. "Deploy the hunter units immediately," he ordered, suppressing another coughing fit. "Use maximum biological containment protocols. Find whatever Earth predator is causing this contamination and eliminate it." His second-in-command, battle leader Nex, displayed concern patterns across his increasingly dull exoskeleton. "Commander, our analysis suggests no large Earth predator is responsible. The damage appears microscopic in nature." "Impossible," Vex rasped. "Microscopic organisms lack the coordination for targeted attacks." His breathing apparatus wheezed as he continued, "Humans must be weaponizing their microbes. This is biological warfare." At the CDC headquarters in Atlanta, Dr. Reyes presented her findings to an emergency scientific council. The room fell silent as electron microscope imagery appeared on screen. "These are standard soil bacteria found worldwide," she explained, pointing to the rapidly dividing cells. "They've evolved specialized structures to penetrate the X-Thalli biological technology. What's remarkable is the adaptation speed. These bacteria are evolving new traits within hours, not years or centuries." Dr. Henderson leaned forward. "Are you suggesting Earth bacteria recognize the alien biology as food?" "Not just food," Reyes clarified. "An optimal food source. Their cellular structures contain concentrated energy compounds our bacteria have never encountered. It's like offering gourmet meals to organisms accustomed to scraps." Outside Geneva, the United Nations Security Council gathered in emergency session. Military advisors presented satellite imagery of the Australian outpost, now an unrecognizable mass of terrestrial fungi and bacteria consuming the alien structures. "The aliens' biological technology is literally being eaten alive by Earth's microbiome," explained General Chen. "Their weapons, their ships, their armor, all of it contains organic components vulnerable to microbial attack." In orbit, the massive X-Thalli mothership showed the first signs of external degradation. Maintenance drones worked continuously, applying regenerative compounds to spreading lesions on the living hull. At the African outpost, the hunter units returned in disarray. These elite warriors, encased in the collective's most advanced living armor, reported complete failure. Their weapon systems had deteriorated during the mission, and 3 hunters never returned at all. Commander Vex, now confined to a sterile chamber, made his fateful decision. "Prepare the cleansing protocol," he ordered through his translator. "If this world's invisible life threatens us, we shall eliminate all life forms and harvest the resources afterward." In her laboratory, Dr. Reyes received an urgent alert from her monitoring equipment. The bacterial samples were showing unprecedented adaptation rates, evolving specialized structures to penetrate even the most hardened alien materials. "They're not just eating the aliens' technology," she whispered, staring at the screen. "They're learning from it." As night fell, the first X-Thalli biological warheads launched toward major population centers. Earth's invisible defenders were about to face their greatest challenge, and humanity would soon discover whether evolution had prepared them for this moment. The biological warheads detonated in atmospheric bursts above major cities: New York, Tokyo, London, Mumbai, Cairo. They released clouds of engineered pathogens designed to overwhelm any terrestrial immune system. The X-Thalli had deployed this strategy on 17 worlds previously, with 100% effectiveness. But Earth was different. Dr. Reyes watched the hospital reports flooding in from affected areas with increasing amazement. The infection rate is dramatically lower than the aliens must have expected, she told her colleagues at the Emergency Response Center. Most people are showing mild symptoms or none at all. Dr. Henderson nodded, reviewing the incoming data. Our immune systems have been fighting evolutionary wars against changing pathogens for millions of years. The alien bioweapons are novel, but our bodies have encountered similar invasion strategies before. Outside, the streets remained calm. Public health authorities had implemented pandemic protocols developed years earlier, a bitter irony that recent respiratory virus outbreaks had prepared humanity for this moment. On the HFY command ship, increasingly desperate officers reported the failure of their primary attack. Commander Vex, now sealed in a life support chamber as lesions spread across his respiratory system, watched his mighty vessel deteriorate around him. Impossible, he wheezed through his translator. Their primitive bodies cannot resist our advanced pathogens. Science Officer Kex, his own exoskeleton showing signs of infection, displayed data streams on the view screen. Their immune systems show remarkable adaptability. They possess defensive cells programmed to recognize and neutralize unknown threats. Evolution has equipped them with broad-spectrum protection. The ship lurched suddenly as a structural support failed. Emergency biolights flickered across the command deck. Our vessel's integrity is compromised, warned the navigation officer. Unknown microorganisms have penetrated our regenerative systems. Hull deterioration accelerating. On Earth, Dr. Reyes led a team analyzing samples of the alien bioweapons. Under the microscope, the engineered pathogens were already being dismantled by common human immune responses. More surprising were the soil samples from alien landing sites. The bacteria there had evolved into specialized forms that targeted alien biological compounds with frightening efficiency. We need to weaponize these bacterial strains, General Chen argued in the crisis response meeting. Deploy them actively against the remaining alien outposts. Dr. Reyes shook her head. We don't need to weaponize them. They are doing it themselves. These bacteria are evolving faster than I've ever seen, specifically targeting the aliens' biochemistry. Nature is handling this for us. The general stared at her. Are you suggesting we do nothing? I'm suggesting we help nature along, she replied, tapping her tablet to display a tactical plan. These bacterial strains are most aggressive. We can cultivate them and deliver them to the aliens' remaining strongholds, not as weapons, but as accelerants to a natural process. Within hours, Special Forces teams equipped with pressurized containers deployed to alien outposts worldwide. They didn't need to fight, simply releasing the cultivated bacteria near alien structures was sufficient. From orbit, Commander Vex watched in horror as his remaining outposts transmitted their final images, structures dissolving, weapon systems failing, warriors collapsing as their living armor turned against them. Retreat, he finally ordered, his pride broken along with his ship's deteriorating hull. All surviving units returned to orbit immediately. But as the few functioning shuttles attempted launch, their biological propulsion systems failed catastrophically. Earth had claimed them all. Dr. Reyes' team moved silently through the deteriorating corridors of the HFY command ship. The alien vessel, once a marvel of biological engineering, now resembled a decomposing organism. Walls designed from living tissue-oozed fluids and support structures sagged visibly. The air filtration system had failed hours ago, forcing the human team to rely on their modified environmental suits. Structural integrity at 43% and falling, whispered Lieutenant Park, monitoring his equipment. This ship is literally rotting around us. They encountered few living Ixithali. Those they did see were clearly suffering. Their once brilliant exoskeletons now dull and covered with spreading lesions. The aliens barely noticed the human infiltrators, too focused on their own survival. The team reached a central biolab, where desperate alien scientists worked frantically. Through observation windows, Reyes watched them applying compounds to tissue samples, only to see the samples continue deteriorating. They still don't understand what they're facing, she noted quietly. They're treating this like a conventional pathogen, not recognizing it's an entire ecosystem of microorganisms working in concert. Commander Vex's private chamber lay just beyond the lab. Once an impressive display of Ixithali biological mastery, the room now showed advanced decay. Life support systems pulsed erratically, struggling to maintain suitable conditions. Vex himself barely resembled the imposing figure who had so confidently promised Earth's subjugation weeks earlier. His exoskeleton, once iridescent with health, was now covered in lesions. His breathing came in labored gasps through multiple filtration devices. Humans, he rasped, recognizing the environmental suits. His translator device rendered his voice weak and distorted. Come to witness your microscopic champion's victory. Dr. Reyes stepped forward. We came to stop your sterilization weapon. Earth doesn't want your extinction, Commander. A sound like broken glass emerged from Vex's translator. Laughter. The weapon is already failing. Its biological components are being consumed, just like everything else we brought to your world. He gestured weakly toward a massive chamber visible through a viewport, where a pulsing organic structure showed spreading dark patches. Your world's invisible guardians have humbled the mighty Ixithali, Vex continued. Thousands of years of biological mastery, undone by organisms we can't even see. A violent tremor shook the ship. Lieutenant Park checked his instruments. Hull breach on level 4. This vessel won't maintain orbit much longer. Dr. Reyes made a decision that would change interstellar relations forever. She removed a sealed container from her pack and placed it before the alien commander. These are engineered phages, viruses that target bacteria. We've modified them to attack the specific Earth microbes consuming your ship. They won't save your vessel, but they might buy time to evacuate your surviving crew. Vex's bioluminescent patterns flickered with confusion. You would help those who came to conquer you. We're scientists first, Reyes replied. And your species has much to teach us, if you're willing to learn in return. Another violent shudder ran through the ship. Warning signals flashed across Vex's chamber as more systems failed. Science Officer Mex Lana, he called weakly into his communicator. Implement emergency protocols and establish communication with the humans. The collective must know what we've encountered here. He turned back to Reyes, his patterns showing a emotion her translator rendered as profound realization. We came seeking apex predators to study, he said. We never imagined they would be studying us instead. Science Officer, Mex Lana's makeshift laboratory aboard the crippled Ixithali vessel hummed with activity. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers, the barriers of species forgotten in the urgency of their task. Earth microbes had been temporarily contained in critical sections, but the ship remained in precarious condition. The phage therapy bought us time. Mex Lana explained to the Emergency Council, assembled via holographic link. Our environment suit incorporated human-designed filtration systems alongside Ixithali technology. But we cannot save this vessel. We request temporary sanctuary on your world. The United Nations Security Council erupted in debate. General Chen's voice cut through the chaos. Absolutely not. They came to conquer us. Let them face the consequences. Dr. Reyes, joining the call from the alien ship, countered firmly. They're offering unprecedented technological and biological knowledge in exchange. This is a scientific opportunity we cannot ignore. The Chinese representative leaned forward. And what guarantees do we have that they won't attempt conquest again? Commander Vex, appearing in the transmission despite his weakened state, addressed the council. His translator rendered his voice with unexpected humility. The collective believed biological superiority was our birthright, he began. We conquered 1,000 worlds, assimilating their genetic material to enhance our own. Never did we encounter defenses like yours. His bioluminescent patterns shifted to express what the translator identified as profound respect. Your world's smallest defenders have taught the Ixthalli what 1,000 conquered species could not. There are evolutionary paths we never considered. We offer not just technology, but a complete revision of our biological understanding. In medical facilities worldwide, researchers studied the interaction between human immune systems and the aliens' biological weapons. The results confirmed Dr. Henderson's initial findings. Earth's long evolutionary history had produced defense mechanisms with remarkable adaptability. It's the continuous arms race, Dr. Henderson explained to the Council. Our immune systems evolved against constantly changing threats. The aliens' bioweapons encountered defenses prepared by billions of years of microbial warfare. The Brazilian representative spoke thoughtfully. If we accept these aliens, what prevents others from coming? Dr. Rees answered, that's precisely why we should allow them sanctuary. The Ixthalli will transmit their findings to their collective. What better deterrent than the knowledge that Earth's invisible defenders defeated their most advanced biological technology? As the Council deliberated, Mex Lana showed Dr. Reyes something remarkable in the ship's laboratory. A bacterial culture from a human child recovering from pneumonia had provided antibodies that, when modified, slowed the deterioration of alien tissues. Your species harbors microscopic allies we never imagined, the alien scientist observed. We engineered our apex predators through direct manipulation. You evolved alongside yours, developing a symbiotic relationship with trillions of microorganisms. The Council's decision came as the ship's structural integrity dipped below 30%. Temporary sanctuary granted for the surviving Ixthalli, conditional on complete technological exchange and monitored containment. As evacuation pods prepared for descent to Earth's surface, long-range sensors detected a massive energy signature at the edge of the solar system. The Ixthalli collective had dispatched reinforcements, unaware of the microscopic danger awaiting them. Commander Vex, watching the sensor data from his medical pod, turned to Dr. Reyes. We must warn them. They bring weapons that will devastate your world, and microorganisms that will destroy them in return. The approaching armada ignored all communication attempts. 53 Ixthalli warships, their hulls pulsing with biological enhancements, entered the solar system with weapons primed. Earth's military forces mobilized, but against such advanced technology, their defenses seemed woefully inadequate. In the hastily established quarantine zone near Geneva, Commander Vex addressed the Emergency Council from his medical containment unit. His deteriorating body required constant treatment, but his mind remained sharp. The fleet commander is Supreme Hunter Lex Vor, he explained, his translator conveying urgency. He will not believe your microscopic life forms pose a threat until his warriors begin falling. By then, it will be too late for peaceful resolution. Dr. Reyes presented the Council with their unlikely strategy. We don't need to fight the Armada conventionally. We need to introduce Earth's microbiome to their biological systems before they can deploy planet-wide sterilization. The plan was audacious. Using the remaining functional HFY shuttles, modified to prevent their own deterioration, joint human-alien teams would approach the Armada under the pretense of diplomatic exchange. Each shuttle carried specially cultivated bacterial samples, engineered by Dr. Henderson's team to target HFY biological technology with maximum efficiency. Science officer Mex Lana worked alongside human scientists, her knowledge of collective bioships proving invaluable. Their command vessels maintain internal atmospheric exchange with all support craft, she explained. Introduce the microorganisms to one ship, and they will spread throughout the fleet. As the shuttles prepared for launch, Commander Vex insisted on joining the mission despite his weakened state. Supreme Hunter Lex Vor will not accept warnings from humans, he argued. He must see what these microorganisms have done to me, the visible evidence of your world's invisible defenders. The mission launched at dawn. 6 shuttles, each carrying a mixed human HFY crew, approached the massive Armada now in high Earth orbit. Initial communication was tense, with Supreme Hunter Lex Vor demanding Commander Vex's immediate return and threatening planetary bombardment. When the shuttles docked with the command vessel, the joint teams moved with practiced precision. While Vex and Mex Lana engaged Lex Vor in formal greeting rituals, human specialists discreetly released their microscopic cargo into the ship's ventilation systems. Your appearance dishonors the collective, Lex Vor told Vex, his bioluminescent patterns displaying disgust at the commander's deteriorated condition. I bring knowledge that will save our species, Vex replied. Earth's true apex predators are not what we expected. The Supreme Hunter dismissed the warning with contempt. We have studied your transmissions. These humans are physically inferior to 17 species we've conquered. Their wildlife lacks basic biological innovations. As Vex attempted to explain, the first alarm sounded throughout the command ship. Environmental systems detected unknown contaminants spreading through multiple decks. Lex Vor's patterns flashed with rage. You've brought their biological weapons aboard, he accused. Not weapons, Mex Lana corrected. Simply Earth's natural microbiome. Organisms that evolved through billions of years of competitive pressure. Your ship is already being consumed, Supreme Hunter. The only choice now is whether we face extinction or adaptation. Throughout the Armada, the first signs of degradation appeared on living hull components. Earth's invisible defenders have found new hunting grounds. 1 year after the HFY Armada's retreat, Earth had transformed. The Geneva Accords established the Interspecies Biological Exchange, a scientific consortium where human and HFY researchers studied the unique evolutionary paths of both worlds. Ambassador Vex, his body permanently scarred but stabilized by treatments developed through joint research, stood before the United Nations General Assembly. His translator had been refined to better convey the subtle patterns of his bioluminescent communication. The collective once judged worlds by the size and lethality of their visible apex predators. He addressed the assembled delegates. Earth taught us that true biological mastery lies in cooperation, not domination. Your species evolved alongside trillions of microorganisms, developing mutually beneficial relationships over billions of years. In laboratories worldwide, breakthrough discoveries emerged from studying the interaction between Earth bacteria and alien biology. Microbiologists isolated compounds that revolutionized medicine, creating treatments for previously incurable diseases. Dr. Reyes now directing the Exchange's research division, led the development of controlled microbial packages that could rapidly break down environmental pollutants without harming native ecosystems. "We're applying the same principles that defended Earth," she explained at the International Science Conference. "Targeted microbial solutions for specific biological problems." The most profound changes occurred beyond Earth. Word spread throughout the former Ixthali Empire about the microscopic defenders that had humbled the mighty collective. Subject species on 17 worlds began questioning the biological superiority of their overlords. Science Officer Mexlana, monitoring communications from these worlds, shared the reports with the Exchange's Oversight Committee. "They request knowledge of Earth's microbiome," she explained, "not as weapons, but as symbiotic partners to restore ecological balance to worlds the collective altered." The first diplomatic delegates from these species arrived 6 months later. They came not in massive bioships, but in smaller vessels designed through cooperative engineering principles. Each brought unique biological knowledge from their homeworlds, creating an unprecedented exchange of evolutionary approaches. Ambassador Vex and Dr. Reyes greeted them in the Exchange's central atrium, where specimens of Earth's diverse ecosystems flourished alongside extraterrestrial biology in carefully maintained containment zones. They sought conquest but discovered community instead. Reyes observed as they watched representatives from 7 worlds engaging in scientific discourse. Vex's skin flickered with patterns that his translator rendered as philosophical amusement. The collective believed the greatest strength was in isolation, engineering our biological superiority apart from other species. We never considered that true evolutionary advantage might come from cooperation. On a viewing screen, microscopic imagery displayed Earth bacteria forming beneficial relationships with alien tissue samples, each adapting to enhance the other's function. "The mightiest hunters in the galaxy turned out to be invisible," Vex continued. "And the most powerful evolutionary strategy wasn't producing apex predators, but rather creating complex relationships between all life forms." Outside the facility, Earth continued its ancient microbial dance. Billions of organisms engaged in constant evolution, competition, and cooperation. The planet's true defenders had not only protected their home, but transformed the understanding of life throughout the galaxy. Humanity's greatest weapons had been inside them all along.